What if the cracks in America's tourism industry run deeper than anyone wants to admit? While Las Vegas grabs headlines with empty casino floors, a quieter crisis is unfolding across the country. In 2025, cities that built their economies on visitor dollars are facing an uncomfortable reality. The tourists aren't coming like they used to. The travel industry spent decades convincing Americans that tourism was recession-proof, that people would always find money for vacations, that the next festival or attraction would bring crowds flooding back. But what happens when the fundamentals shift? When travelers change their habits, tighten their budgets, or simply choose to stay home? The story isn't just in Las Vegas. It's in Michigan's struggling gateway cities, Chicago's quieter streets, and Seattle's half-empty eco-lodges. And the consequences reach far beyond the tourism sector itself. Stay with me. You'll see how deep and how widespread this collapse really is. Number 9. Michigan, the forgotten gateway. Imagine living in Detroit, just a bridge away from Canada, yet watching the lifeblood of your economy dry up. That's the reality for Michigan in 2025. Once a reliable destination for millions of Canadian tourists, Michigan now faces a staggering 37% drop in Canadian visitors. The reasons? Tariffs, political tensions, and a strong U.S. dollar that makes crossing the border feel like paying a luxury tax. For border communities like Detroit and the Upper Peninsula, this isn't just about fewer hotel bookings. It's about entire downtowns going quiet. Shops that once thrived on weekend Canadians now close early. Sporting events see half-empty stands. Rural areas that depended on fishing lodges and hiking tourism are fighting to stay alive. The state's response has been bold. Its Keep It Fresh campaign tries to pivot away from lost Canadians by targeting U.S. domestic tourists. Ads highlight Michigan's sandy lake shores, Traverse City's vineyards, and the wild beauty of the Upper Peninsula. The strategy is clear. If international travel collapses, convince Americans to rediscover their own backyard. But here's the hard truth. Domestic visitors don't spend like international ones. According to state projections, even with success, Michigan's tourism sector may lose billions in 2025, compared to its $27 billion contribution in past years. That means 200,000 jobs tied to tourism are at risk. Infrastructure investments like the upcoming Gordie Howe International Bridge, a toll-free pedestrian and cyclist crossing linking Detroit and Windsor, offer hope. Once opened, it could restore Canadian foot traffic and encourage eco-friendly tourism. But until the political climate improves, Michigan is stuck in survival mode. The tragedy here is that Michigan has the resources, Great Lakes, forests, cultural cities, to thrive. Yet without its closest neighbors, the state stands as a warning. Even a short border can feel like an ocean when politics, money, and trust get in the way. And Michigan isn't alone. If the gateway to the Midwest is struggling, what about America's cultural capital of the Midwest itself, Chicago? The crisis only gets bigger from here. Number 8. Chicago, a campaign against decline. Chicago is no stranger to reinvention. From the ashes of the Great Fire to becoming America's architectural jewel, the Windy City has always fought back. But in 2025, Chicago faces a quieter enemy. Empty hotel rooms, fewer international flights, and a tourism sector that has lost its swagger. The numbers are stark. International arrivals to Chicago have plunged, with Canadian visitors down nearly 40% in a single year. For a city that thrives on conventions, theater, and global food tourism, that's a devastating blow. The Magnificent Mile doesn't sparkle when its flagship stores see declining foot traffic. Millennium Park feels strangely less crowded. Even Navy Pier, once overflowing with tourists, now hosts more locals than out-of-towners. Chicago's answer has been aggressive, the Never Done, Never Outdone campaign. Billboards across New York, Los Angeles, and London remind travelers that Chicago's jazz still plays. Its skyscrapers still dazzle, and its neighborhoods still pulse with culture. The city is betting big on identity, resilience, creativity, and grit as its tourism selling point. But here's the problem. Campaigns can't erase economics. A strong US dollar makes Chicago a pricey weekend for Europeans. Political tensions keep Canadian buses from arriving. And even domestic visitors are slowing down, with many opting for cheaper regional trips over expensive big city weekends. The consequences ripple. Hospitality workers, bartenders in River North, hotel cleaners near O'Hare, stagehands in the theater district face unstable hours. Restaurants that once had 3-hour waits now scramble to fill tables. And Chicago's broader economy feels the hit. Tourism contributes nearly $17 billion annually in spending here, meaning every percentage drop leaves a mark on tax revenue, local businesses, and jobs. Yet, Chicago is still pushing forward. The city hopes that upcoming mega events, like the 2026 FIFA World Cup, will help bridge the gap. But the danger is real. If Chicago fails to turn the tide, the city risks losing more than tourist dollars. It risks losing its place as America's cultural heartland. And if the Midwest's powerhouse city is wobbling, imagine what's happening in smaller border cities like Buffalo, where the crisis cuts even deeper. Number 7. Buffalo, a border city in trouble. What happens when a city's lifeline is cut off almost overnight? For Buffalo, New York, the answer is painful. Just across the Niagara River from Canada, Buffalo has long relied on weekend visitors flowing in from Toronto and Ontario. Canadians came for Bills games, cross-border shopping, and cheap getaways. But in 2025, that stream has dried to a trickle. The numbers tell the story. Canadian visits to the U.S. are down nearly 38%, and Buffalo, sitting right on the border, has been one of the hardest hit. The collapse isn't just about politics or tariffs, though both play a role. Tariff wars have made everything more expensive: fuel, lodging, even game day tickets. Add in the strong US dollar, and what used to be a casual Saturday trip to Buffalo now feels like an overpriced luxury. For Canadian families, it's often cheaper to stay home and spend their money locally than deal with the exchange rate hit. The result? Malls near the border are emptying out, boutique hotels face cancellations, and even popular food spots, buffalo wings included, are serving fewer plates. Buffalo isn't giving up. In fact, it's gone on the offensive with its Buffalo Loves Canada campaign. The city has lit its downtown in red and white on Canada Day, offered promotions with $500 gift card giveaways, and leaned into cross-border symbolism by pairing a buffalo with a maple leaf as its tourism logo. It's more than marketing. It's a plea for connection, reminding Canadians that Buffalo isn't just a neighbor, it's a partner. Still, the effort faces uphill challenges. A city of just over 275,000 people can't generate the spending power that millions of missing Canadians once brought. Local businesses, from outlet malls to hockey arenas, feel the pinch. And the psychological toll is real too. Buffalo's identity as a welcoming border town feels fractured when the bridge traffic is thin. For Buffalo, the tourism crisis is more than economics. It's existential. And if a small city with deep cross-border ties is straining to survive, what about a giant built entirely on selling dreams to outsiders? That's where Las Vegas comes back into the picture, and its struggle is far more symbolic. Number 6. Las Vegas, the cracks in the mirage. For decades, Las Vegas seemed untouchable. No matter the recession, no matter the war or pandemic, the neon lights kept glowing and the gamblers kept coming. But in 2025, even Vegas, the city that invented reinvention, is buckling under the same pressures now sweeping across America's tourism industry. The Strip, once shoulder to shoulder with tourists, now has glaring gaps: empty blackjack tables, half-filled theaters, and hotels quietly slashing midweek rates just to keep occupancy above water. International visitors, who once poured billions into the local economy, have slowed dramatically. Canadians, long a staple of the Vegas crowd, are coming 38% less than before. Tariffs, currency strength, and rising travel costs make Vegas less appealing when alternatives, cheaper casinos in Oklahoma, tribal resorts in Michigan, or even international destinations like Mexico, offer similar thrills without the financial sting. And when international demand falls, Vegas's delicate one-industry economy feels the shock immediately. To fight back, the city has rolled out its Fabulous campaign, a glossy reminder of what made Vegas iconic: world-class entertainment, luxury resorts, and a promise of glamour you can't find anywhere else. But the campaign is less about reinvention and more about survival. Behind the sparkle lies an economy where resort fees soar, parking isn't free, and dinner for two can run $300. Domestic travelers, once Vegas's safety net, are increasingly priced out. The result? Families skip Vegas for Orlando, convention organizers downsize, and gamblers test their luck at regional casinos instead. The consequences ripple far beyond the casinos. Las Vegas tourism once generated more than $60 billion annually, supporting over 230,000 jobs. When that engine sputters, hotel staff, performers, and taxi drivers all feel the downturn. For a city built on non-stop growth, even a modest slowdown feels catastrophic. The cracks in the mirage aren't just symbolic of one city, they're a warning sign for America. If Las Vegas, with its global brand and endless reinvention, is struggling to attract visitors, what does that mean for smaller cities that don't have the same allure? That question looms large in our next stop, Seattle, a city betting its entire future on the promise of nature and sustainability. Number 5. Seattle, betting on nature. Seattle has always been a city of contrasts: steel skyscrapers against evergreen forests, tech billionaires sipping lattes under gray skies. But in 2025, the Emerald City is facing the same reality haunting Vegas, Buffalo, and Chicago: fewer tourists, fewer dollars, and an economy trying to pivot before the damage becomes permanent. Unlike Las Vegas, Seattle isn't doubling down on spectacle. Instead, it's selling its soul. Literally, the green one. The city's new Mother Nature's City campaign highlights misty hiking trails, whale-watching tours, and kayaking along Puget Sound. It's a direct appeal to eco-conscious travelers, especially international visitors from places like Japan, where cultural ties to nature run deep. In theory, it's a smart pivot. In practice, it exposes just how fragile Seattle's urban tourism base has become. Hotel occupancy downtown has dropped, and conventions that once filled massive venues like the Washington State Convention Center are downsizing. Pike Place Market, usually packed shoulder to shoulder with camera-toting tourists, has noticeably thinner crowds. And while the Space Needle remains an icon, ticket sales are no longer the guaranteed cash cow they once were. Why? Because international tourism, a cornerstone of Seattle's economy, is shrinking. With Canadian visits to the U.S. down almost 40% and broader global travel dented by political tensions and costs, Seattle's gateway status on the Pacific Rim is eroding. Economically, the stakes are enormous. Tourism has been worth billions to Seattle, not just in leisure but in business travel tied to Amazon, Microsoft, and Boeing. But with fewer visitors, local businesses, from boutique hotels to the ferry system, feel the pinch. Restaurants, especially those that thrived on high-spending tourists, now rely more on locals, who simply don't spend at the same scale. Seattle's gamble is clear. Lean into sustainability, ecotourism, and authenticity. Promote slow travel over flashy getaways, positioning the city as the antidote to Vegas excess. And while that strategy might attract a niche market, the risk is obvious. Ecotourism doesn't fill stadiums, doesn't flood hotels, and doesn't keep airport terminals bustling. It may keep Seattle afloat, but it won't supercharge its tourism economy. If a wealthy, tech-powered city like Seattle is struggling to draw visitors, what chance does a city built on heritage and history have? That brings us to number 4, St. Louis, reviving the past. Number 4. St. Louis, reviving the past. St. Louis is a city that wears its history on its sleeve. From the iconic Gateway Arch to the echoes of jazz and blues clubs, its cultural legacy is undeniable. But in 2025, St. Louis finds itself on the same fault line as other American cities. Declining visitor numbers, shrinking tourism dollars, and an urgent need to reinvent. Unlike Vegas or Seattle, St. Louis doesn't have global glamour or a billion-dollar tech image to lean on. What it does have is history, and the city is betting big that nostalgia can pay the bills. Tourism leaders have poured resources into restoring landmarks. The old courthouse, centerpiece of the Dred Scott decision, just received a $27.5 million renovation. The city is tying this effort to a broader strategy. Sell St. Louis as a place where history meets modernity. At the same time, anniversaries like the 100th year of Route 66 are being celebrated with parades, exhibits, and festivals designed to pull in tourists hungry for Americana. But heritage alone can't mask the cracks. St. Louis has faced years of population decline, economic stagnation, and crime rates that have scared off many would-be visitors. Hotel occupancy lags behind national averages. Even Busch Stadium, home of the Cardinals, reports lower ticket sales compared to pre-pandemic highs. Tourism once funneled billions into local jobs, restaurants, hotels, music venues. But today, those workers are left piecing together part-time gigs. The recovery hasn't been even, and the city's reliance on heritage events feels like a patchwork solution. Still, there is hope in the authenticity St. Louis can offer. Unlike contrived tourist hubs, this is a city where you can still feel the grit of history in the bricks, hear live blues echoing from small clubs, and walk streets that shaped America's cultural backbone. If the city can blend that authenticity with new attractions, think culinary tourism, sports, and revitalized neighborhoods, it might carve out a niche future. But here's the looming challenge. Can nostalgia compete in an age of flashy mega-resorts and ecotourism branding? For St. Louis, revival is a fight against not just declining numbers, but relevance itself. And if America's historic crossroads is struggling, what about entire states trying to spread their bets beyond one city? That's the gamble Illinois is now making. Number 3. Illinois, the statewide gamble. When one city stumbles, a state can still lean on its neighbors. But what happens when your flagship city, Chicago, is already in crisis? That's the dilemma Illinois faces in 2025. Instead of betting all its chips on the Windy City, the state has launched a sweeping statewide tourism push designed to showcase its diversity. The message? Illinois is more than just Chicago. The campaign highlights everything from the shores of Lake Michigan to small-town festivals across the prairies. Ads feature biking trails through lush farmland, wine tours in central Illinois, and the hidden charm of historic river towns. The strategy is clear: diversify, decentralize, and remind Americans that Illinois is a mosaic, not a monolith. But here's the catch. Marketing only works if travelers are willing to spend. And with international tourism to the U.S. down nearly 40%, Illinois is fighting an uphill battle for attention. Economically, the stakes are high. Chicago alone contributes billions in annual tourism revenue, but with downtown hotels struggling and convention attendance shrinking, the state has to plug the gap. Small towns and rural areas offer unique experiences, but they don't generate the same high-volume spending as global conferences at McCormick Place or international flights into O'Hare. Tourism in Illinois was once a dependable pillar of its $1 trillion economy. Now, even modest declines ripple into lost tax revenue, shuttered local businesses, and thinning payrolls for service workers. The irony is that Illinois has the raw material to compete. Its cultural festivals rival those of bigger states. Its culinary scene stretches far beyond Chicago. Think deep dish pizza in the city, but also farm-to-table dining downstate. And its landscapes, from state parks to historic trails, should be a draw in an age of slow travel. But without the volume of international visitors, the state risks spreading itself too thin, trying to sell too many stories at once. For Illinois, the gamble isn't just about attracting visitors. It's about proving a whole state can shoulder the burden when its anchor city falters. Yet even bold statewide strategies pale next to what the federal government is attempting. A nationwide campaign to rebrand America itself as a destination worth crossing oceans for. And that brings us to number 2. Brand USA, selling America the Beautiful. Brand USA, selling America the Beautiful. When local campaigns aren't enough, the nation itself steps in. That's exactly what's happening in 2025, as America faces one of its deepest international tourism declines in decades. Canadian visits alone are down nearly 38%, and broader global arrivals have slumped under the weight of tariffs, a strong U.S. dollar, and political friction. For a country that once proudly called itself the world's #1 travel destination, this is more than an economic hiccup. It's an identity crisis. Enter Brand USA's America the Beautiful campaign. It's not just a glossy ad series, it's a high-stakes national rebrand. The campaign leans into sweeping imagery: California's sunny beaches, Colorado's mountain peaks, New Orleans jazz, and New York skylines. It's designed to remind the world of America's unmatched diversity, while also strategically tying tourism to mega events on the horizon, like the 2026 FIFA World Cup and the 250th anniversary of U.S. independence. The hope? That patriotism, sports, and spectacle will reignite international demand and fill hotels, stadiums, and city streets once again. But the challenge is enormous. Unlike Las Vegas or Chicago, Brand USA isn't just selling one city. It's selling a whole country, in an era where travel itself feels more expensive, more complicated, and less appealing. Airfares are high, visa rules remain tight, and global travelers have options, from Europe's cultural capitals to Asia's eco-paradises, that feel more welcoming and affordable. Even the best branding can't fully erase the financial and political barriers standing in the way. Yet the stakes couldn't be higher. Tourism isn't just leisure. It's jobs, small businesses, and billions in tax revenue. Entire industries, airlines, hospitality, entertainment, depend on international visitors. And if Brand USA fails, the decline seen in Las Vegas or Buffalo could snowball into a national tourism recession. That's why the America the Beautiful push isn't just about marketing. It's about survival. If the campaign works, it could reframe America as a must-see destination for the next decade. If it doesn't, cities from coast to coast will be left to fight for scraps. Which brings us to our final stop: the local communities stepping up to save themselves. Places like Clinton County, Ohio, where tourism is becoming less about outsiders and more about rebuilding from within. Clinton County. Small towns, big stakes. When we think of America's tourism crisis, our minds jump to Vegas or Chicago. But the truth is, the battle for survival may be most visible in small communities, places like Clinton County, Ohio. Unlike the giants, Clinton County doesn't have neon casinos or skyscrapers. What it does have is determination. And in 2026, it will host the State Travel and Tourism Conference, drawing 400 to 500 delegates. For a county of fewer than 45,000 people, That's a massive economic jolt. Hotels, restaurants, and attractions are preparing for a rare boom. The local Roberts Center will anchor the event, while landmarks like the Murphy Theater will showcase culture and history. Even small businesses, cafes, shops, service providers stand to benefit from the influx of visitors. It's not Vegas money, but in a region where tourism dollars are scarce, the ripple effects are enormous. For Clinton County, this isn't just an event. It's proof that tourism can still be a lifeline when nurtured carefully. The strategy here is fundamentally different from big city campaigns. Instead of selling glamour or global branding, Clinton County is selling authenticity. Warm hospitality, community pride, and the chance to see real America. A promotional video is already in the works, featuring locals, business owners, and leaders sharing why this community matters. It's grassroots tourism at its purest, and a reminder that sometimes survival depends less on flashy marketing and more on building genuine connections. But let's be clear, small towns can't replace the billions lost from declining international tourism. What they can do is adapt faster, lean into their strengths, and prove that resilience is possible. If Vegas is the canary in the coal mine, Clinton County is the flicker of light, showing there may be another path forward. And that's the hidden truth of America's tourism crisis. Survival isn't just about the big players. It's about whether every community, big or small, can find a way to keep their doors open, their streets alive, and their story worth telling. Las Vegas may have been the warning shot, but the story is nationwide. From Michigan's border struggles to Clinton County's grassroots fight, America's tourism future is on the line. What do you think? Can these campaigns turn it around, or is the decline permanent? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe.